Shalom. I want to give all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rachak Wadash, and Shani Kabad, Gadwala Rokab, to Kwanyam Nawa, Washalayakim Nawa, which is double honors to our elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and Shalom, Wabarakim, Labakayim, Shayasharala. And that's peace and blessings to the elect of Israel. And as always, to the confusion of faces, meaning those who look like the other nations, but whose spirits resonate with the truth and that believe and have faith in Yahweh, the Heavenly Father, and Yahweh Shai, the only begotten Son. To all of you brothers, no matter how you look, if you have the true faith, then I want to say peace and blessings to you all. So this article was written July 23rd, and it's entitled World War III, Trump tweets are readying U.S. for invasion of Iran, military chief says. So we're going to read a little bit of this article and then get to the scriptures. It says, Donald Trump's tweets threatening Iran with unprecedented consequences could be a precursor to a full-scale invasion, a military commander in the Middle East country has claimed. Mr. Trump let fly on social media after Iran's President Hassan Rouhani said America's oil exports crackdown risks starting the mother of all wars. In an early morning tweet today, the U.S. president said to Iranian President Rouhani, never ever threaten the United States, or basically the king of Babylon said, never ever threaten Babylon the Great again, or you will suffer consequences, the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. So as you can see, because of the economic sanctions that the United States put on Iran, their economy is starting to really feel it. It's starting to suffer. And because of that, Rouhani said what? You're about to start the mother of all wars, meaning we're not scared of you. President Trump, or Donald Trump, took that as a threat, and he came back and said, don't ever threaten Babylon the Great again, or you're going to suffer the consequences, the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. Boasting in his military might, being proud and a prideful Edomite that he is, or the prideful Edomite that he is. It says, or he goes on to say, we are no longer a country that will stand for your demented words of violence and death. Be cautious, because of course America has to make it seem as if Iran is this crazy, out of control nation for the purpose of some kind of quote unquote justification when they invaded, if they do, which hopefully they do. Now it goes on to read, Iranian military chief of staff General Mohammad Bagheri has taken Mr. Trump's apparent threat seriously. News agency Tasnim quoted him as saying, the enemy's behavior is unpredictable. Although the current American government does not seem to speak of a military threat, according to precise information, it has been trying to persuade the U.S. military to launch a military invasion of Iran. Now, this is also biblical prophecy, if I didn't mention it. Now, Iran's oil exports could fall by as much as 2/3 by the end of the year as a result of new U.S. sanctions imposed after Mr. Trump pulled out of the JCPOA deal aimed at preventing Iran developing nuclear weapons. Tehran is smarting at the potential damage to its economy as a result, and in a speech on Sunday, Mr. Rouhani urged the U.S. not to play with the lion's tail. Now, once again, let's read Trump's tweet, and then let's go into the scriptures. It says, to Iranian President Rouhani. So he wrote that in his tweet. So Trump wanted Rouhani to see this tweet. To Iranian President Rouhani. Never ever threaten the United States, or never ever threaten Babylon the Great, or you will suffer consequences, the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. We are no longer a country that will stand for your demented words of violence and death. Be cautious. So now what I want to do is jump over to the book of Daniel, the 7th chapter. And we're going to start reading at verse 3. The point I want to get is at 8. So I'm going to skim through it, summarize a little bit, through the Spirit. Hopefully you brothers are edified. And I want to go to verse 8, which is the point. So Daniel 7 verse 3 says, And 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. This first great beast is referring to the Assyrian Babylonian Empire. Verse 5 says, And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear. This second beast is referring to the Medo-Persian Empire. Now verse 6 says, After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard. That's referring to Alexander the Great, or we like to call him Alexander the Creep. And of course, the Grecian Empire, the Greeks. Now verse 7, and I'm going to read 7 and 8 straight through. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast. This fourth beast is referring to the Roman Empire. Dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, referring to their strong military presence. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. All right, the vassal states connected with it. Verse 8, this is the point. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. This little horn is referring to America that you are dwelling in right now, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. Those 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots are referring to the Spanish War, the French War, and of course the British War, those revolutionary wars. It goes on to read, And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. That's the point that I wanted to bring out. It says, And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Because he's just a man. America is referred to as a little horn, spiritually Sodom and Egypt, and also Babylon the Great. And who is the king of Babylon right now? The king of America is Trump. And he also represents Esau Edom, or he is Esau Edom, but he also represents, once again, the king of Babylon that rules. And of course, he fulfills a part of this prophecy referring to a mouth speaking great things. Now, ultimately, this is going into the wine, the philosophies, and the false doctrines that these Edomites push out. An example is what? Pedophilia, homosexuality, this Christian, so-called Christian doctrine, this false philosophy that they placed on top of the scriptures, placing a woman over top of a male. All right. All these things are part of the mouth speaking great things, but it's also spiritually, we can connect it to this tweet. We can connect that to this tweet that Donald Trump put out. I'm going to read it once again because he's boasting and speaking great things of his power and of the might that America holds through their military. It says, To Iranian President Rouhani, never ever threaten the United States again, or never ever threaten this little horn again, or you will suffer consequences the likes of which throughout history have never suffered before. Boasting in his might, speaking great things. Now I want to jump down to verses 19 and 20. And it says, Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, referring to the Roman Empire, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. Verse 20. And this is the point. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, we went over that, even of that horn is referring to what? America. Even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. And who are the fellows referring to right now, today, this day? Well, of course, the allies of America, which are what? NATO. And I want to examine this scripture, more specifically this last verse, which says, whose look was more stout than his fellows. Or really, and the mouth that spake very great things, starting there. So let's get into it and go into the Hebrew, because I liked what I found through the Spirit this morning, just doing a little bit of studying. Now, when you look up these words, it says, and the mouth that spake very great things. So for very great things, so for great, we have 87260. The word is Rob, a Ra and a Ba, Rob. Now, when we come down here, it says whose look was more stout. When you look at that word stout, it's 87229. And the word again is also Rob. So we have the word Rob in Hebrew for the English words great and stout. So let's get a little bit more edification by going into the scriptures, or going into Salaka, the Hebrew. Obviously, going into the Hebrew, I meant to say. So we come here once again for great. The word is Rob. And as you can see, it just says great, 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 figuratively of power. All right. And then it says captain, chief. But the point is that it says great. Even when you come down to the Strong's definition, it just says great, great things. So it goes into the things, or the words, or the comments, if you will, the tweets, the philosophies that this little horn will be spreading. He spake great things, right? And it also says figuratively of power. And I like that as well, because that also through the Spirit ties into this tweet that Trump made a few days ago, boasting in his power, speaking great things, boasting in his military might, prideful. Trump is a proud demon, and he should be, because we believe that Trump is going to lead us into this next World War III that we're praying happens very soon. So now when we go back, once again, for the word very great things, you have Rob, and it just says great, or figuratively of power, or great things. And now when we come down and keep reading, it says whose look was more stout than his fellows. So this is referring to the little horn's presence, whose look or his appearance was more stout than his fellows. So now let's go into that word stout. As you can see, it's the same exact word, and it says Rob. And right here, you can see the same exact thing. Outline of biblical usage. It just says great, 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 figuratively of power. But now, when we go down to the Strong's definition, what does it say? Great master, stout, chief, meaning the first or the head. It says captain or lord, because what? It's going into the appearance or the presence of that little horn. So let's go back once again. I'm going to keep it right here, because it says very great things whose look was more stout than his fellows. So referring to the appearance of that little horn compared to the presence of his fellows, or the allies of America, being what? NATO. And you can see that the stout, basically once again, the appearance going into chief, lord, or master, meaning what? America has the strongest military might on earth right now. And of course, what that means is, in regards to NATO, his allies or his fellows, of course, they look at America as being what? The chief or the head of NATO, because of their strong military might. That's the presence that America gives off, which is why what? Which is why Trump is such a proud demon, because he's the king of that little horn. He is the king of Babylon, who's stout, or whose look was more stout than his fellows, because America is the head or chief or lord of NATO, of its allies, and they know it. America knows that. Trump knows that. Everybody knows that. They're the head of NATO because of their strongest or their strong military presence. And once again, that's why they boast so much and put out tweets and things like this. Never ever threaten the United States again, or you will suffer consequences, the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. So that's the point I wanted to bring out concerning Trump's tweet. Just showing or giving more edification through the Spirit that that little horn is referring to America. Just another way you can actually go into it. So continuing on, it says, meanwhile, Galmasin Gapovar, a senior commander of Iran's elite revolutionary guards, was quoted by Reuters as saying on Monday that the Mr. Trump's threats Mr. Trump's threats amounted to psychological warfare. He added, "We will never abandon our revolutionary beliefs. We will resist pressure from enemies. America wants nothing less than to destroy Iran, but Trump cannot do a damn thing against Iran." I'm going to read that again because I felt it. America wants nothing less than to destroy Iran, but Trump cannot do a damn thing against Iran. Now, this is biblical prophecy, but first, I want to grab Joel, the 3rd chapter, because as you can see, Iran, a smaller nation, talking to America like this, you would have never seen this 5-10 years ago, not even 3 years ago, where smaller nations coming up against the big bad wolf, the bully, like this. So let's go to Joel, the 3rd chapter, really quickly. Brothers know where I'm going. I want to get Joel chapter 3, verses 9 and 10. It says, "Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up to where? The Middle East, Yahweh Shaphat." Verse 10, it says, "Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears." Basically meaning what? Don't put any more money into agriculture, but put all your money into your military might, your defense, your weapons, your nuclear bombs. And it goes on to read in verse 10, "Let the weak say, I am strong." You see that? Let the weak say, I am strong. What's that referring to? Referring to nations like Iran. Saying what? America can't do a damn thing to Iran. That's what he said. Let's go into that word strong. Let the weak say, I am strong. Let's get into it. Strong. You have a Gaba and a Wa and a Ra. So Gabwar. All right. Gabwar for strong. Gabwar. And it says what? Strong, mighty, strong man, brave man, mighty man. So these smaller nations are actually stepping up. They're having confidence. They're being proud now. And they're being what? A strong nation, a brave nation, a mighty nation. All right, so this is biblical prophecy. Now, also what I want to get into is Ezekiel, the 38th chapter. Now, when you read this, the point or the subject matter at hand is Gog and Magog. And Gog and Magog today is referring to Russia. Ezekiel 38 verse 1 says, "And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog." That's the subject matter at hand. "The chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him." Now, when we jump down to verse 4, it says, "And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army." So Russia getting prepared for war. "Horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords." So once again, Russia just getting prepared for war. It's a metaphor saying all of that, right? Now, this is the point right here. Verse 5, it says, "Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them." Persia is who? Persia in these scriptures are referring to, or is referring to, Iran. It says Persia or Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya with them. So Persia or Iran is going to be on the side of Russia in this next upcoming World War III. Persia or Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer, which is Turkey, and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Now verse 7 is the point. It says, be thou prepared, talking to who? Russia, Gog and Magog, the subject matter at hand, talking to Russia, saying, be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. You see? And be thou a guard unto who? Unto nations like Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, and Gomer, Turkey. But Persia, once again, I'm going to say it for the third or fourth time, is Iran, talked about in the Holy Scriptures. And it says what? That Russia is prophesied to be thou a guard unto Iran. So let's say in these upcoming weeks or even months, and which we're hoping that it happens soon, that America really does go into, or it really does invade Iran, then basically they're going to have to deal with Russia, because Russia is prophesied and they will be a guard unto Iran. And that's going to be a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. And we're praying that all of these prophecies come to pass very, very, very soon. We're praying for, fewer days. All right. And that's the point right there. And I pray that you brothers were edified. And I want to bring out actually one more article saying the same exact thing. But this article just came out, or it came out the next day, July 24th. And it says World War III, once again, Trump is about to pull off something very big against Iran, says U.S. Senator. We're living in beautiful times. So it says World War III fears have been sparked this week following a series of threats between U.S. President Donald Trump and Iranian President Hassan Rouhani. But one U.S. Senator has said President Trump is about to pull off something very big. U.S. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham warned Iran is the biggest threat to America, and it's really not, to America, and insisted Donald Trump is ready to bring the Iranian regime down. Speaking on Fox News, Mr. Graham said, "This is the worst regime in the world in terms of threats," and it's really not, once again. Russia, North Korea are threats. Radical Islam like Al-Qaeda are threats. But the biggest threat of all to me is the regime in Iran. They are religious Nazis, or Nazis, whatever, who are trying to develop a nuclear capability. But what about Russia that already has nuclear capability? Never mind Russia, right? Anyway, it says, in order to shut down the Iran regime, Senator Graham said the U.S. president must break their back economically and impose sanctions on their oil. Drive them out of Syria. Don't cut a deal with Russia to give them Syria. Stand up to them through the entire Mideast. Help Israel with the Iranian Hezbollah. Break their economy. Stand with the Iranian people. Get information trying to make it seem as if they're the heroes. Stand with the Iranian people. Get information into Iran that will drive the Iranian regime crazy. We are on the verge of history here with Iran, and I want to compliment President Trump and Mike Pompeo. We are about to pull off something very big. So as you can see, the U.S. is readying to invade Iran, fulfilling biblical prophecy. So with that being said, once again, I pray that all of you brothers were edified that watch, and of course the few sisters that watch as well. And I want to give all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rachak Wadash, and double honors to our elders and apostles of Great Millstone who taught us His truth, and peace and blessings to the elect, and of course as well to you confusion of faces out there. Shalom.